Every day a coastal express liner leaves Bergen. We will follow MS Kong Harald from Bergen to Kirkenes and back. The trip takes 11 days. Departure and arrival times are the same for all liners. In the summer we leave Bergen at 8 p.m. Captain Alf Johannessen welcomes all on board.
Det er en glede for meg å ønske alle sammen hjertelig velkommen ombord på denne turen nordover.
Anita Heiberg is guide. Security officer Arvin Eikrem instructs the passengers about safety on board. On every journey, the passengers are instructed in the use of safety equipment. The instructions are also given in English.
Så før dere går til kausekveld, vil jeg at dere bruker en par minutter på den her. Finn deres lugar. Finn nærmeste rømningsvei, men se også etter alternativ.
In the summer we take a trip from Ålesund to the very spectacular Geiranger Fjord. Roads are steep and not easy to build. Ferries are even today the only means of transportation. We are back in Ålesund. From the mountain Axla we have a good view of the town and the ship. MS Kong Harald was built in 1993, but is equipped with the newest navigation and control instruments. There are two radars, one 10 centimeters and one 3 centimeters, both with a range of 96 nautical miles depending on the conditions. Consequently, the radars give us a good survey of an area greater than necessary for safe sailing. The bridge is quite complicated, but all the instruments are easy to read. Let us look at some details. With these handles, the two main engines can be operated. In spite of the fact that the ship is equipped with first-class navigation instruments, we are obliged to use ordinary drafts. The first mate updates the logbook manually. When docking, the port side wing is always used, because the gangway and the loading hatch are on this side. Also here we find all necessary maneuvering devices. On this boat, the captain and the first mate have a private agreement. They share the ports between them. Thus, both will continuously be up to date. This time it is the first mate's harbour. Hurtigruten, the coastal express liner, is not a pure cruise ship, but also an ordinary passenger and cargo liner. We dock at 34 harbours when going north and the same going south. In Trondheim we meet the southbound ship MS Vesterålen. In Trondheim we unload bags of food for salmon farms. In this case it is not necessary to use the lift because the deck and the quay are almost even. We shall later see that this can be different. Two trucks on the quay transport the bags to the warehouse. The upper cargo deck is also called the car deck. If only a few cars are expected, the car deck is also used for cargo. We are ready for departure. The first mate takes the ship out of the port. Just after Trondheim, we pass Fosen Mekaniske, a shipyard where two coastal express liners, Trollfjord and Midnattssol, were built. Trondheim Mekaniske Verksted has earlier built 11 express liners from 1895 to 1960. After passing Fosen, we can see the red Hjeungsskjær lighthouse. Now we will sail through the narrow Stocksunda. It is not necessary to sail here. We could use a different route, but the tourists prefer this. Maybe the officers on the bridge also had great fun going through this narrow strait in fine weather. In the evening we arrive at Rørvik, where we meet one of the old workhorses, MS Nordstjernen from 1956. Embarking passengers must call at the reception. In the reception you will find a small painting of the first MS Kong Harald from 1890. This ship was converted to a coastal express liner in 1919. She was rebuilt several times until 1951, when she was taken out of service. Many of the old sailing ships had a figurehead, but the placing was a bit different. Some shares from former days. On deck 3, close to the reception, we have 3 cabins for handicapped passengers. They are a bit larger than ordinary cabins. The bathroom is also specially designed. We also have a room equipped with washing machines available for the passengers. At the aft staircase you will find paintings by Ulf Monsen and a decorative signboard showing the layout of the decks. On the deck at the entrance there is a compass rose. All the passengers receive a combined key and passenger's card. At the gangway there is a card reader registering in and out passing. Thus we will know if all the passengers are on board before departing. In the main staircase you will find portraits of King Harald and Queen Sonja, but we must make it clear that the ship is named after 5 Norwegian kings, from Harald Hårfagre 1200 years ago to our present king, King Harald V. Knut Steen has made the marble Ice Queen as a part of the decorations in the central hall on deck 4. On deck 4 you will also find the Café Roald Amundsen, named after the famous polar explorer. Our guide on this trip, Anita Heiberg, keeps us updated about interesting places and harbours and organises excursions. A model of MS Harald Jarl from 1960 gives an impression of the older coastal liners. The shop is also on deck 4. Here you can buy everything from postcards and souvenirs to toothpaste. We sail through many municipalities. 22 have given us their coats of arms. On our starboard side we have the coastal arcade, 57 meters long, going from the central hall to the main restaurant. All the way we have showcases. The mirrors give a special effect. The children have fun in the playroom. The passengers are free to use internet connected via satellite. The door handles are specially designed with the shipowner's logo. The coffee bar Fridtjof Nansen is the largest saloon on deck 4. There you find the painting The King is Coming by Oskar Reinert Olsen. After having crossed the Arctic Circle, passengers who cross for the first time are baptized by Neptune. We also have a competition. The point is to guess the exact time we crossed the Arctic Circle. The winner gets a prize and is the first to be baptized. Sometimes the passengers themselves take part in the entertainment. We have two rooms for conferences. One is called Helmer Hansen, after the polar explorer, and the other Tore Hund, named after the Viking chief from North Norway. The rooms can be combined. In the galley, 5 people work in the low season and 9 in the high season. The head chef this time is Jan Atle Stendal. Stainless steel is widely used because steel will withstand harsh washing. The kitchen utensils are washed and sterilized in this machine. When the food is ready, it is placed on trolleys and brought to the Märta Hall. The restaurant can seat 140 guests. Most are round-trip passengers, but also ordinary passengers can have dinner here. The chefs are preparing the plates in the restaurant. On our way, we will meet all the other coastal express liners. Just before Ørnes, we meet MS Midnattssol. Ørnes is a privileged commercial village from 1794. We proceed further north and pass Bird Island, Fugløya, with many puffins. Now we are on our way to Bodø, passing some small settlements. Bodø has 40,000 inhabitants and is the largest town in the county of Nordland. The Nordland Railway ends here. Bodø has one of the largest yacht harbours in Norway. The ship's own gangway is always used. The hydraulic system lies under the gangway. Our ship can take 45 cars. The cars go to the lift, which brings them down to the car deck. Cars can be loaded and unloaded in all 34 harbours where we dock. Now we are ready for departure. The large hatch on port side is closed. It is hydraulically operated. The able seaman is responsible for the closing of the hatch. The waste compressor is also here. The waste comes from the upper decks through a shaft. The container will be put ashore when it is full. Just before Stamsund, we can see the Lofoten Wall, a nearly 100-kilometer-long mountain range out in the ocean. Stamsund has 1,300 inhabitants and is more or less man-made. No natural harbour existed here before. The ship must turn in the harbour to dock on the port side. The next stop is Svolvær, the capital of Lofoten. Svolvær has 4,000 inhabitants, and the economy is mainly based on fish. But Svolvær is also the starting point for tourists to Lofoten. Many well-known artists also live here. We leave Svolvær late in the evening. During the night we pass Stokmarknes, Sortland and Risøyhamn. The carpets in the hall are inspired by the Vikings. Nowhere else will you find similar carpets. The panorama saloon Ottar Viking is on the top deck, deck 7. On the same deck you will also find the panorama saloon Leif Eriksson. The bar is open in the evening. Finnsnes is an old commercial centre. One of the old shops is still at the port. A bit further in is the new shopping centre. Finnsnes has 16,000 inhabitants. The main industry is fishing. Mechanical workshops and a factory for fishing equipment are also situated at Finnsnes. Because of the great difference between high and low tide, the lift must be used here. All pallets are labelled with the name of the port of disembarkation and stored systematically. At Finnsnes we got a new hawser. The able seamen make it ready for the next stop. There is a winch also on the aft deck. In the evening we meet MS Lofoten, built at Akers Mekaniske Verksted in Oslo in 1963-64. MS Lofoten is sailing instead of MS Nord-Norge, while she is in the Antarctic. Tromsø is not only a maritime and fishing town, but also an important commercial, industrial and university town. The first church in Tromsø was built in 1252. The Pope called it the church close to the pagans. Today there are 60,000 inhabitants in Tromsø. The Ishavskathedral has the largest stained glass window in Europe, 140 square meters. It is made by Victor Sparre. The Polar Museum is situated in an old warehouse. The exhibitions look almost alive. In early days, whaling was an important industry in Tromsø. We sail through Magerøysundet with a lonely settlement. Honningsvåg, the starting point for a trip to the North Cape, lies on Magerøya. Honningsvåg has 2,800 inhabitants. Most of them work as fishermen or in the fishing industry. The contrast between MS Kong Harald and the Russian trawler is formidable. The North Cape Plateau lies at 71 degrees, 10 minutes and 21 seconds north, and 304 meters above the sea level. In fact, the North Cape is not the end of Europe. Knivskjellodden lies 1.5 kilometers closer to the North Pole. Some tourists believe they are close to the North Pole, but it is another 2,080 kilometers before you are there. To keep things shipshape all the time, maintenance is necessary. To be sure that the lifeboats are in perfect order, the gear is inspected regularly. While the passengers are at the North Cape, a safety training of the crew is carried out. This time training with the emergency raft is scheduled. A demo raft is used. No fire has broken out on board. It is only a realistic exercise. Just after Honningsvåg, we pass Sværholtklubben, a mountain with many birds' nests. MS Richard Hvitt is named after the founder of Hurtigruten in 1893 at Stokmarknes. The crew's pantry is down on deck 1. Hot meals are sent from the galley. The rest are produced here. The resting room is comfortable with a TV set. The view through the porthole is rather special. When all the safety operations are finished, the cooks in the galley get to work. When the passengers return from the North Cape, a very special meal is served. We produce our own bottled water, carbonized or plain. Today, a buffet dinner is served. Here you will definitely find something you will like. In the restaurant, you will find the large painting from the Lofoten fisheries by Aksel Revold. Now the time for dishwashing has come. Everything has to pass the sterilizer. The cooks have to clean the galley thoroughly before finishing work. Beside the dishwasher there is a waste mill. All the water from the galley goes to this tank. Thereafter it goes to the water cleaners. The hotel master has a small office. Down at deck 1 are the stores. One store is like a great refrigerator, another a deep freezer. One is for fruits and vegetables, one for dry foods, and finally one for beverage. We arrive at Kjøllefjord, a small village with 1,400 inhabitants. The whole village was ruined completely by the Germans during the last World War. The church is a gift from Denmark just after the war. Once again we meet an express liner, MS Trollfjord from 2002, sister ship to MS Midnattssol from 2003. We have been going a bit south to Vadsø. Vadsø is the administrative center of the county of Finnmark, founded in 1833. The fishing industry, especially the fish oil industry, is important. A newcomer is the Kamchatka crab, which has recently invaded the Varangerfjord. The crab is a problem for the environment, but also profitable for the men who catch them to sell for consumption. Kirkenes is the turning point of the Hurtigrute. Kirkenes was an iron ore mining town, but now the mines are closed down. We are now very close to Russia. A new mechanical workshop is repairing and doing maintenance on large fishing boats. These Russian trawlers are waiting outside the shipyard. No, the ship is not stranded. It only looks like it. The stones come from the mines. Now we have to visit the engine rooms. In the control room, the first engineer can read the conditions of the engines on the display and make necessary corrections from the main panel. Also, the main panel for distribution of electric power is in the control room. In the engine rooms, there are alarm sensors. There are two 6-cylinder Mach main engines, each equal to 4,500 kilowatt, with 470 revolutions per minute at normal speed. The piston movement is 520 millimeters and the cylinder diameter is 450 millimeters. The engines are normally controlled from the control room, but can also be controlled from this panel. Each engine has a reduction gearbox that reduces the revolutions of the propellers to 170 per minute at normal speed, 15 knots. A gearbox and the clutch seen from another angle. The top of one of the main engines. The Brown Boveri turbo loader runs with 12 to 14,000 revolutions per minute. A 2,400 kilowatt generator is coupled to each of the main shafts. The generator cannot be seen. This is only the air inlet for the cooler. This is a hydraulic device for the pitch control of the propellers with a local maneuver panel. Westphalia separators for lubrication oil and fuel for the main engines. To the left are the indicators for the fuel tanks, and to the right fuel filters for the auxiliary engines. Fuel processing system for the main engines and buffer tank for fuel. Tank for lubrication oil for the propeller thrust bearing and spare lubrication oil filters. Lubricating oil pumps for the main engines. This is a filter for seawater, which is used to recool the fresh water for cooling the main engines. There are 3 pumps. One is running, the others are standing by. Pump for seawater for the evaporators for making fresh water. Freshwater pump for cooling the main engine, and motor-operated valve. Compressors for air for starting the engines. Normally one is operating and the other is standing by. The engines are equipped with a turning motor for maintenance. At 12:45 we leave Kirkenes in very nice weather. We are now a southbound coastal express liner. MS Kong Harald belonged to the ship owner company Troms Fylkes Dampskibsselskap when this video film was recorded. The ship is built in Stralsund in Germany in 1993. The ship is 121.8 meters long with 11,204 gross register tons. It is certified for 691 passengers and has 490 beds in 230 cabins. On the bridge and the deck we have 9 officers and able seamen, plus 1 apprentice. In the restaurants 5 people work in the low season and 8 in the high season. The transit speed is 15 knots as for all other coastal liners. Southbound we do not call at Vadsø, but go directly to Vardø. Vardø is situated as far east as Istanbul and Cairo. Vardø Church was inaugurated in 1304 to mark that this land belongs to Norway. The Norwegian king Håkon V Magnusson started building the first fortifications immediately afterwards. The castle we can see today was built in 1734 and 1735. The castle has never seen real battle, apart from some minutes against German airplanes in 1940. The cannons have been used to salute the return of the sun after the dark winter. The house of the Commander-in-Chief. The dining room has its old interior intact. The castle serves no military purpose today, but is still a part of the military forces and has its Commander-in-Chief. Vardø got its privileges in 1789. The Germans damaged 2/3 of the houses in 1942 to 1944. The church dates back only to 1958. The dark period in the winter lasts for 59 days and nights. On the other hand, the sun never sets for 74 days and nights during the summer. We have more to see in the engine room. A Danish autofilter takes out the rest of the particles in the fuel for the engines. We have 2 Bergen diesel engines driving the Kike 660-volt generators with an effect of 1265 kilowatt. This is the room for receiving fuel, diesel and lubrication oil. Also sewer can be pumped ashore from here. There are 2 Brunvoll stern thrusters, each with an electric motor of 790 kilowatt and hydraulic controls. A few years ago, the ship was equipped with a Rolls-Royce Ulstein compass azimuth propeller and hydraulic controls. the hydraulic aggregate for the stabilizers. The rest is underwater. Only the cylinder for the stabilizer fins can be seen. 3.5 hours after having left Vardø, we're in Båtsfjord, with 2,400 inhabitants. Here you will find fishing industries and a mechanical workshop. The next stop is Berlevåg. The breakwater was made in 1973 from concrete tetrapods. They will resist the very hard winter storms better than anything else. True, fishing and fishing industry are the main reasons why people live here. But in Norway, the Berlevåg Mannssangforening, a choir, has made Berlevåg a well-known place. While we are docking at Berlevåg, MS Nordlys arrives. She has to wait outside. Only one liner can dock at a time. On deck 2, we have a well-equipped fitness room with a sauna. It can be used by the passengers and the crew. On the same deck, we also have the hospital. We do not have a doctor on board because we called at 63 ports in 11 days. But the security officers are trained in treating heart attacks and other acute illness. Astern is the less comfortable cabin, the arrest. Mostly it is used for transporting prisoners, but occasionally a passenger can be too noisy. We make our own fresh water from seawater. The excess heat from the cooling water from the engines is used in these evaporators. The water then goes to the storage tanks. 2 ultraviolet filters make the water free from germs. An oil-heated Halvorsen Parat donkey boiler with a capacity of 3 tons steam per hour is used for heating water, fuel, cabins and other rooms. A motorman is cleaning the ignition electrode. We also have 2 Parat exhaust boilers with a capacity of 1.2 tons per hour each, and 2 Oso electric boilers. The water pressure on board is 6 bars. The wastewater is filtered and separated before it is pumped out. We only have vacuum toilets. The vacuum pumps generate low pressure. The dirty water goes first to this tank for treatment, then to the 3-chamber sediment tank. From this it is pumped out. We are now in the compressor room, with alarm and control equipment that is controlling the cooling compressor for the air condition in the passenger area. The compressors for cooling and freezing in the cargo hold are also here. No other windmills lie further north than the mills on Havøygavlen just outside Havøysund. 16 mills produce 40 megawatt during normal wind, which is 9 meters per second. Havøysund is situated between Havøya and the mainland, and sheltered from the Norwegian Sea. 60 years ago, only 150 people lived here. Now the population is 10 times as high. Fishing and fish industry are important. Just outside Havøysund we meet MS Finnmarken, this time northbound. On Melkøya, Milk Island, outside Hammerfest, a great oil and gas terminal is under construction. The next port is Hammerfest, the most northern town in the world, at 70 degrees, 39 minutes and 48 seconds north. This corresponds to the north coast of Siberia and Point Barrow in Alaska, which are uninhabited. No one knows when the first settlers came to this place, but Hammerfest was founded in 1789. Today Hammerfest has 7,000 inhabitants. Hammerfest got electric streetlight in 1891 as the first town in Norway. Hammerfest was completely destroyed by the Germans in 1944. Naturally, Hammerfest is based on fish, but the oil industry is growing fast. Between Hammerfest and Øksfjord, we meet MS Vesterålen from 1983, named after the first express liner DS Vesterålen. Apparently we have sailed far south, but Øksfjord is further to the north than Kirkenes. Øksfjord, with 1,400 inhabitants, is the center for Loppa rural district. The name Loppa is quite funny. It means flea. The next stop is Skjervøy, a fishing harbour. But Skjervøy also has a factory for equipment for the aquaculture industry and a shipyard. Harstad is a little different from the other places we have called at. Harstad town is from 1804. Fishing is important here, but Harstad also has a dairy, meat industry and is a base for petroleum exploration off the coast. A shipyard is also situated here. Harstad has 23,000 inhabitants. Just after Harstad we come to Trondenes church, dating back to 1250. Maybe there was a church here even before that time. In 999, 31 years before the Battle of Stiklestad in 1030, the official year of christening of Norway, Bishop Jon Sigurd christened the people of Trondenes. Trondenes was the main Catholic church in northern Norway until 1536. We have not finished our visit in the engine rooms, and we'll have a look at some of the auxiliary machines. First we see the compressor for cooling the food store. In the ventilation room we find the motor-operated valves for heating the cabins, the restaurant and the saloon. The fresh air goes first through these filter boxes before it is heated and distributed. An Ingersoll Rand compressor is providing air for tools for maintenance. Highly qualified electricians are needed. The electrical system is quite complicated. There are many TV sets on board. The satellite signals received are distributed from this exchange. We have a well-equipped workshop. Much of the work can be done at sea, but sometimes it has to be done when we are docked. We also have special tools for maintenance and repair. Spare parts for the main engines are available. The equipment store and the store for smaller spare parts. Astern is the steering engine. Impulses from the bridge are received by the steering machine. If a problem should occur, it can be manually operated by an able seaman instructed via an emergency telephone from the bridge. In a special room we have flasks for CO2 extinguishing, used in the engine room, the cargo hold, the paint store and the ventilation room for the galley. An alarm is sounded before activating in order to evacuate the room concerned. On the top deck we have the emergency aggregate. It will supply electricity through the bridge and emergency light all over the ship. The aggregate starts automatically when the normal supply fails. On the other side is the distribution panel. Through Risøyrenna between Andøya and Hinnøya, we have to sail slowly. Risøyrenna was dredged in 1922. Before dredging, Risøyhamn, Sortland and Stokmarknes could not be called that. On Andøya there are large peat marshes. Risøyhamn exports garden soil. We are loading 100 pallets, which are brought down to the bottom deck. Before leaving Risøyhamn, we must have a look at the stone where King Håkon VII and King Olav V have written their signatures. The next bridge we pass under connects Hinnøya, the largest island in Norway, to Langøya at Sortland, the center of Vesterålen. At Sortland they have a factory using waste from the fishing industry to produce oils and enzymes for the pharmaceutical and cosmetic industry. Sortland has 4,000 inhabitants. We have not finished our visit to the bridge. A GPS, global positioning system, tells us where we are. As all other ships, we have VHF and medium wave radio. Left is the printer for Navtex and SAT-C. On the deck over the bridge is the antenna dome for the systems. 2 telephones are for internal use, but can also be used externally via the ship's exchange. The dome for mobile telephones via satellite provides permanent connection for mobile telephones. This is the panel for emergency draining of the car deck, to stabilize the ship by letting the water down into the hold. Panel for the watertight bulkhead. All doors can be operated from the panel. The emergency telephone does not need external power supply. It is connected directly to the engine control room and the steering engine. We have no less than 32 antennas. The antennas for the radars. On the top deck there is a buoy, which will surface if the ship should sink and start transmitting emergency signals.
Og det 2 finner som ligger I skrogen normalt, som vi kjører ut. Og så jobber den da ved hjelp av gyro.
Once on every journey, the passengers are invited to visit the bridge. Captain Alf Johannessen informs the visitors about how to navigate and the instruments in use.
Her ikke båt lenger, det det som hotell. Men når det gjelder komfort og sånn, så jo det her ganske fast. Så du kan se...
In the back room on the bridge, we have 2 gyro compasses and the electronics for navigation and security. The terminals are on the bridge. The captain has a lot of paperwork to do in addition to the navigation, and he has his own office. All cabins are well equipped, but the captain's cabin is the best. It is situated just behind the bridge. Over the bridge are 2 suites that are quite comfortable. On deck 5 we have a showcase with coat of arms received from groups of passengers to express their satisfaction with the ship and the journey. The carpet on the same deck is specially made for MS Kong Harald. Today the able seamen have to act as carpet layers. The windows are rinsed with fresh water to provide a better view. The fresh water is fully rinsed water from the bathrooms. When breakfast has been served, the restaurant attendants have to prepare the cabins. The heaviest job is to change all the linen and towels for a new passenger. Stokmarknes is the birthplace of the coastal express liners. The new coastal liner museum in Stokmarknes has the largest museum item in Norway, the MS Finnmarken from 1956. Captain Sten Magne Engen, chairman of the board, is dreaming back to the old days.
Vi har 2 rader her, med sånne raderskjermer. Og VHF, og her er autopilot, det er veldig flott, moderne. Det er moderne. Hele panelet her var jo bygd om, det var jo ikke sånn fra børjan av.
Eine Fahrt mit dem Hurtigrutenschiff die beste Art, Norwegen kennenzulernen. Der Premierminister...
After Stokmarknes, we come to Raftsunda, the longest narrow strait we are passing. The mountain Svartsundtind is 1,050 meters high. The other mountains are just slightly lower. Most fantastic is Trollfjorden, but this time we cannot go in because we could risk a landslide. After Raftsunda, we will dock in Svolvær with the famous mountain Svolværgeita. Once more we see proof that Hurtigruten is a liner, not a cruise ship. In Svolvær, 150 handball players board the ship. They are returning home to Bodø after a national match. In the cargo hold we have a large quantity of fish. Then we meet MS Midnattssol, northbound. Just after the Arctic Circle, we can see the mountain Hestmannen, 568 meters high. 2 nights a year you can see the midnight sun on the flat top. In Nesna we meet the ferryboat Petter Dass, named after the famous author. We have a short stop in Sandnessjøen. Just afterwards we can see the famous Seven Sisters. Then we pass Alstadhaug Church from 1100, where Petter Dass lived from 1689 until his death in 1708. He was a descendant of the Scottish family Dundas. We are sailing south and passing Torghatten. The hole is 166 meters long and 75 meters high. The hole was made by Hestmannen, who shot an arrow through the hat. In a few minutes we will be at the geographical midpoint of Norway. We have taken a long step south and are calling at Molde. Also in Molde, 2 liners dock at the same time. When leaving Molde, we pass a hotel, looking like a sailing ship. In the glass facade, we can see ourselves. Then there is only one port to call at, Florø, before we are in Bergen. After 11 days, we are back where we started.